Hello everybody and welcome back to, well, I was about to say RimWorld. No, not quite the right game. Welcome back to Factorio, where in the last episode we got the factory started and not done a terrible job of it. In fact, I'm fairly pleased with what we've managed to do. In this episode, we are going to be, well, first and foremost, setting up a new mining area because frankly we need one since we did more or less run out of all of the iron, as I expected we would, in the starting area. So thankfully for us, we have got a new area just down here, and actually we're going to need a lot of belts to get it back up there. We may as well grab a little bit of wood as well, just for the extra electricity poles we might need. Now, I received an awful lot of suggestions for the name for our starting town, and thank you so much. I do want to take a moment just to say I really do appreciate all the support that the first episode in this series received, as I don't like speaking about it directly too much, but it really does help, especially the first episode in any particular series, to receive a lot of engagement, that is comments or likes and shares, that sort of thing. It does actually go a lot further than most people think. It doesn't just let me know that you're interested in the series, it actually has quite a far-reaching effect on the channel's growth as a whole. So I do want to say thank you so very much for all of the support there. Now, in terms of setting all of this up, we're going to go for a fairly simple little setup there that should produce a decent amount of iron there. There are two ways that you can build a mine, and it really does come down to time versus efficiency, as is probably the case with a lot of things actually. You can either get the metals out quickly, or you can get them out efficiently compared to the use of your mining facilities. So you may have noticed there was a bit of a ghosted overlay. You can place them so that there's no or very minimum overlap on the overlay, and that's the area that the miner can mine from. Or you can place them closer together, so in effect each miner is helping the miner next to it mine the minerals a little bit faster, and it's really down to you what you care the most about. I think either way you're going to get through it. If you get through it faster, you just have to look for more minerals earlier, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But there we go, that should now mean that we're getting a fair bit of iron from there. Marvellous. Now, back onto the topic of the name of our town. There were so many suggestions, and it was kind of hard to pick from them. And this is a series where I'm not going to be picking randomly. Well, usually, when it comes to like the names of train stations, the names of trains, that kind of thing, that will be a random pick as usual. But when it comes to the town names, I do want to pick something that actually has some sort of meaning. And I quite liked Dragon's Fall. There were lots of things like Dragon's Landing, King's Landing, Crater. That was actually a pretty good one as well. But Dragon's Fall by Tim Dedopoulos, thank you so much for the suggestion. That is the name of our founding town, which may well become a city at some point. A couple of other ones that I quite liked were Bootstrap Flats. I thought that was quite clever. And Roanoke. I think it's maybe Roanoke, which is actually a town name with some historical meaning. I can't say I was familiar with that town before looking it up, since so many people suggested it. The Lost Colony, very interesting. Though I don't intend to abandon this facility once it's run out of metals or anything. This will always be our landing area, and so will serve a purpose going forward. Now, that being said, in this episode, I would very much like to get to research. That's really the next step. Specifically, what I would like to do is to at least get to the point where we have the second tier assembly machines so that we can make things out of 3 components automatically, and possibly a few other things besides as well. But the first one is definitely just researching automation. Now, naturally, I'm going to be trying to make a bit of a beeline toward rails simply because there's a rail world map. It's going to be kind of necessary. But early on, we'll need automation a little bit more. Now, where are we going to start expanding out? There's two things that we can do here. I may want to move around our smelting stacks a little bit. As pretty as this little design is, it's not very expandable. That is going to become a bit of an issue now that we've got enough iron coming in that it's going to last for quite some time. We probably do want to make something a little bit more permanent in terms of our smelting operations. And yeah, I think I've got a bit of an idea. Let's go ahead and set this up, because we are going to want quite a lot of this stuff flowing through. We've got a lot of empty space up top. Sure. Okay. Let's do a little bit of moving, shall we? Now, I'll make... sure, we'll go ahead with 20 for each. There we go. We will be using this kind of design there, but we're just going to be moving around where we're placing them. So let's go ahead and get that all set up here. There we go. And then we will want pretty much the same on the other side. Actually, no, that's only 8, not 10. My bad. There we are. And all the way up. There we go. Now, this is not going to be where the smelters are going to live. So those who watched my initial beginner's guide series may notice that I'm not going to be leaving room for the eventual expansion into electric smelters. That's because we're going to have a smelting town specific for that at some point. Right now, this is just to get me through the early game. I'm going to need a fair bit of iron and copper for all of this. So let's continue with that all the way up. There we are. Now, this will sit us in good stead moving forward for the next couple of episodes, I imagine. It will not be the end smelting stack. It will not by quite a large margin, but it should be good enough. Now, actually, I'm not entirely certain about how many smelters this kind of stack can operate with. That is, when the belt is containing both coal and copper, or for example coal and iron. There we go. Let's just make sure that's pointing the right way. Then I'm not entirely certain on how many smelters can use that belt, because the belt will have a certain amount of throughput on a yellow belt, and we're cutting that in half. Yes, we're delivering fuel and the actual ore at the same time, but we would be able to have a lot more smelters working off it if we were delivering them on 2 individual belts, because we would literally be doubling the amount of fuel and doubling the amount of ore that we were delivering. It all makes sense when you think about it. Right, let's get that going up there. There we go. Marvelous. That should be perfect. We have got enough being made there. Now, this is going to make things a little bit more convenient and tidy for us, and that will allow me to do a little bit more down here. This will be outputting all of its copper and iron up top, and we'll actually create a proper bus for the first time. And that, well, again, this is not going to be the permanent location where all of this stuff sits, and we don't actually need those ones there and there either, so we'll take those away. Now I'm going to need quite a lot of these, so let's just stack up quite a lot of them to be made. Let's take all of those away. There we go. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to be making all of these in my pockets, so it's going to take quite some time, actually. While that's all going on, I can make myself busy by going and gathering some wood, because we're going to need quite a lot of electric poles over here. At this point, it's time for us to start thinking about where we're going to be expanding. And again, the first town is not going to be specialized in the way of the others, though it may be the home for my science, my actual research lab for quite some time. I may be making the actual science flasks off-site and delivering them, because I do want the home base to have a sort of important function right throughout the whole series. So I think the place where I research stuff does make a bit of sense. It'll be the home. Ooh, we've run out of my tool. Oh, well, that's terrible. That's actually awesomely bad, because it's kind of hidden behind loads of other things. There we go. Let's make a couple more There we are. We are going to need an awful lot of them, unfortunately. But that should be fine. If we can get up to green science, then we'll be able to start looking at... that will sit us well for science for quite some time. Though, as a caveat to that, or rather as a forward, I guess, I haven't played the game since they introduced all of the different science packs. There's lots of new recipes that I don't know the new balance of how much the components are needed, because quite a lot of the recipes have changed, and I have almost no knowledge of what goes into the later science packs and how that's all being split off. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting one there. I hope you can forgive me as I go through that and learn with you. Hopefully it'll be interesting at the very least. Let's make sure these are set up over there. There we go. I'm going to have to place those manually for now. There we are. Perfect. And the same over here. So I'm not sure how feasible it is and how many science labs we're going to need and how easy it's going to be to move all of the science beakers around, but it should be fun to find out at the very least. Right, at this point I'm going to want to actually split these lines up in a different way. Now, that being said, how close would we be to getting splitters? Splitters are going to be very, very important for us. 20 science packs. All right. Well, let's actually make some use of the time while we're building other things. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build a science lab, and then I'm going to immediately build 20 science beakers, and I'm actually going to start work on logistics, because I really, really would like to have splitters for what we're going to be working on here, and also underground belts is going to be quite important. Now, as a general rule, I do prefer to build things in an automatic way rather than in my pocket, if I can. In the beginning, there's going to be a lot more pocket crafting than there will be late game, and generally I'll try to make everything that I make in some sort of automated way, just because, well, you can go at it from two directions. You can either call it efficient or you can call it lazy. In honesty, at least with me, it's a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. I like not having to worry about whether I've got something building a certain thing, and I hate having to build it myself, because at some late stage I realize, why am my builder robots just constantly asking for this item? Where's it being made? Oh, it isn't being made. Oh, no, I've got to make it myself. Oh, I've joined the workers in the fields. No, I need to be back in my glistening tower of technological marvels. Not really like that, but still, I do. It does rankle me a little bit when it comes to I'm playing a game about automation and I'm not automating everything. So I like the factory to be able to just repair itself no matter what breaks, and that does mean building everything on some level, at least to some small amount, even like electric poles. And so that is the way that we'll be moving forward, and generally I'll try to avoid having to craft anything in my pocket, but early game, that's going to be a bit par for the course early on. I'm not aiming for any achievements. Again, there are achievements for crafting the least amount of items you possibly can while still completing the game, and I wholly recommend people try that, because it's actually quite fun to do. But that isn't my objective in this Let's Play, not by a long shot. There we go. Actually, I've got a lot of just random stuff in my inventory. Let me drop those off. We'll do the same over here. There we go. And we can drop that in there. Perfect. Right, that should merrily get me logistics. And actually, on that note, there is one other thing I would like to do, and that is to get some bricks being made, because I like to be able to tile the factory. Makes it faster to run on, and also it's a good way of creating signs. There are actually mods that create some wonderful signage, and I may install some of those. This is not particularly a vanilla run-through at the moment. It is currently, but I have no plans to keep it that way. There are lots of different mods that I quite enjoy, and once those are available, I may well install them. It's not something I am particularly planning one way or the other, basically, but I hope it will be quite fun if and when I do Right. Let's see. We're going to set this one up. Actually, let's not place this here because we're basically on top of an area. I could add some extra stone mining in. So let's get that happening. However, I'm going to move these as well. I would like the stone being mined to be on the outside of this belt. So we'll do something like that just to make it a little bit easier. We'll pop in some power right about here. There we go. So that's all on the outside line. Let's grab a little bit of coal over on this side. Draw it up. And we can have it be added onto this line there. And then somewhere around here, it's a little bit hodgepodge, I know, but bear with me. It's only brick. You don't use too much of that. In fact, I'm fairly certain we only really need 2, so we can get away by just doing this really for ourselves. I'll have that being loaded there and then unloaded, and loaded there and then unloaded. There we go. That should be fine. And there we go. That'll give us some bricks being some bricks being stored. Now, in terms of stone, I don't like using all of my stone for brick though. So let's make sure that we actually have a solution to make sure that there's some free stone in the factory at some point. Also, let's clear up a little bit of the spaghetti wires here. This is the way you clear up spaghetti wires. Click. Click, left click, it just removes the connection. Perfect, nice and simple. Right, there we go. So, logistics is on its way, is still going. Yes, it is. Marvelous. We'll almost certainly need to just strip all these down. I could have just used these to help. Actually, should have taken those away first. The loading arms, not the unloading arms. There we go. But that will make this a little bit easier. We can strip all of this away. Actually, should have taken that out first and allowed these to finish smelting. In fact, I will. Let's do that on both sides since we're going to need to. Let's get rid of that. And in fact, going to need to pick all of this up. There we go. Damn it, did it the wrong way again. Dig all of these up from the back. There we are. And that should make things a little bit easy for us. Oh, fantastic. The miner is finished. Right. Okay, so this side is pretty much done then over here. We'll actually draw that back. There we go. I'm just going to let the smelters do their magic there. Right, the next thing I would like is obviously automation. So let's get that on the go. I can quickly make 10 of these and just drop them off. That shouldn't be a problem for us. Allow that to continue smelting. That should all be grand. Now then, we have a couple of new options. We can make splitters, we can make underground belt, we can make a transport belt. All of them are marvelous and necessary. Let's get this all the way down. We're going to want this to be feeding in pretty much on each side. Something like that. There we go. Just dig this way. We are going to want... oh, the splitter hasn't been... we can't make the splitters yet. Let's just go ahead and drop these off for now. We're going to need a second one for the coal going into the iron as well. That one's going to be a little bit tidier in a way. In fact, we could just have the copper, since it's just coming straight up there, we'll have the copper going in on that side. And just have a little belt like so for the coal there. That'll actually work a little bit better, I think. There we go. So first coal going in there. Next coal going in here. And we should be sorted. Let's do that. There we are. Marvelous. Okay, that is so much tidier. So very much tidier. We can just run the iron all the way up and then across. There we go. Right, so iron will be working sooner than copper, and that's fine. For now, it's not a race. It is a race. Right, we don't need that strictly to be there, and it's kind of in the way. So let's move her around a little bit. We want one underground belt. Actually, we're going to need a bunch of regular belt. I might see if I can get all of the belts being automated in this episode as well. That would actually be quite a nice place to wrap up on. If we manage to get all of the belts being automated, That's actually a pretty good place to be. Again, I like automating things rather than having to do it myself, but belt is one of those things that I've noticed that lots of people leave quite a while to automate, despite how much belt you need. It seems like one of the more obvious ones you'd want to automate simply because of how desperately your factory needs belt in ridiculous quantities. But let's just get all of this sorted. We'll do one side at a time, so it's nice and easy for me. There we go. There we are. And over there as well. Marvelous. Now I have no doubt, no doubt that these sorts of smelter stacks have already been added to the blueprint repositories that you can, the blueprint libraries you can get access to. And I strongly encourage you to make use of that if you have access to it. Why not? Right, let's grab a bunch of those as well. As for everything else down here, we're actually pretty good. Great. Right, let's grab all of these. Grab from the loading side first. There we go. We're taking a while to dig these up. I have to check then to see if I'd run out of my pickaxe, but no, I don't appear to have. Right. You can just pick up the belts and you'll pick up anything on them, which is actually remarkably useful. Is that full? Doesn't surprise me, actually. Doesn't surprise me, not even in the slightest little bit. No, no, no. I'll allow this to fill up there. It'll take a little while. In fact, actually, no, I won't allow it to fill up. I'm going to be impatient. I'm just going to grab everything. There we go. We can just drop off a load of the coal into the smelters just to get it out of my inventory. That'll probably be the easiest thing to do there. There we are. So all of this is filtering through, and yeah, let's just get rid of the coal. So hold down Control and just click on the smelters and you'll load as much into it as you can. There you go, perfect. Right, over here. You know what? We need this in such massive quantity. I may as well make it a little bit faster for my my inserters to pick it all up. I'll pop that there. You can connect this up on this side. Oh, actually, no. We'll move it down a little bit. Something like that. There we go. So first we'll just have this one loading in there, but we can easily load it on the sides as well if we want to. You don't need to put a crate in there, but if you do, it's just going to mean it's going to be able to hold a little bit more. Now, we'll probably set up a bus, actually, so this is probably unnecessary, but, you know, it's just something we can do just to make sure that that's all flowing nice and freely. Right, now, let's get all of this set up. We should have enough inserters at this point to get all of this done. You basically need double the amount of smelters, and we had 20 smelters for each stack, so we need 40 inserters. There we go. Perfect. Now we can get rid of the regular one just down below. How are we doing for coal at this point? We are not mining nearly enough coal anymore. I think it's time for us to add another one or two, or three or four. We'll add two, and we'll also move where the power is being input there as well. Have one about there, I think. Oh, of course, now we have completely disconnected this. Unfortunate. Let's see, can I just drop that in there? Actually, it'll connect up like that pretty easily. Annoying. Very annoying. Alternatively, we could just have one here and it would power them all. There we go. Unintentionally being forced to be a little bit more efficient with the positioning of my miners. There we go. So there's 4 miners bringing us in coal, and that should alleviate a little bit of the problem that we were seeing there. Okay, so with all of that being gathered, I do need to make sure it's actually being put somewhere though. So let's go and make sure that's happening. There we are. And we'll need another 3 boxes and 1 more power pole. And that'll be good. Again, this is pretty much set up to load onto a bus, and we'll almost certainly be doing that. Maybe in this episode, maybe the next. Right, as for our automation, did I not drop these off? I did not. What a derp. Right, there we are. So we've massively improved our smelting system. Now, in terms of what we would like to make with it, we would need the next tier of automation to be able to make splitters. But it would be nice to have all of these things, if nothing else, being made in this episode. So I'm actually down with that. Sure. Okay, we'll set up the automation. That's going to require the automation of electronic circuits. It's gonna be a fair little bit of work for us. Now, for that, we're going to need electronics, which does require 30. Oh, actually, you know what? How about, instead of that, I'm going to leave research for a bit, and we're actually going to set up automated research, which was more or less my plan when I started things out. And then I was like, oh, I'll be distracted by wanting to automate all of the belts because I need them so much, and so on and so forth. And that's how it all begins, everyone. You just lose track of time. Right, so for this we need copper and iron gears. Fairly simple. This will actually need transport belts, so it makes sense for us to set up the automation of transport belt, because then that can feed into this. What does transport belt require? It just needs iron and iron gears. Okay, that's actually not too bad, all things considered. What does this require? Okay, so that does require iron and electronics. It's actually pretty much the same as splitters in effect, because a transport belt and iron plate and electronics is effectively iron, gears, and electronics. And that's exactly what this needs. So they're actually quite similar requirements there. Electronic components are the only one that is going to require copper cable, so that's the only thing we'd need copper cable for this specifically, and everything else would be provided for. All right, well, let's start off with red science, shall we? And we'll pick a spot a little bit to the side. I was actually thinking of having the science down there, but we can always move it later on. Right, let's make a couple more. Well, we don't need that many. We'll just go with 4. Let's not be greedy now. Right, so we've got 4 of these, and we are going to want to start with just regular science packs. At that point, actually, yeah, we're going to need this bus. So I did just make a lot of busy work for myself, really. What a dope. Let's grab all of these then. Grab you, take all of this out, and we'll just actually set the bus up a little bit earlier than I was expecting. Right, so first and foremost, let's just bring this out. We don't need to take it particularly far. I'll just bring it up at a respectable distance and then just run this across there. There we go. Now, again, I mentioned that I do like having my my iron sort of going through a bit of a buffer system. This is effectively what the buffer system would be. I'll just quickly show this to you. So something like that. We'll have one going through there unimpeded, but one that will actually use splitters to return it to the belt at the end and just carry on its merry way. You can place this wherever you particularly want to. This just ensures that you've got a reasonable amount of iron always in storage, not just on the belt. As cathartic as it is to just pick it up, no, you really should make sure that it's all being delivered properly. There we are. We'll just make sure that all of this is properly hooked up to electricity. There we go. And that should connect both of them. There we go. So we've now got our iron being stored for us. Marvelous. And we'll do exactly the same with copper. It does allow you to have 2 belts if you want to, and I strongly recommend, well, let's be honest, iron and copper, you're probably going to end up on a big factory with wanting at least 4 belts of iron and copper, just completely saturated. And that'll be your main bus. So, you can just have the second belt running along there. I'm splitting this off 1 belt, so there's really only 1 belt's capacity moving through here. But you can just have these kind of nestled in the 2 innermost points, just to create a little bit of an extra buffer for you. And there's lots of other things, lots of other ways you can design it. And it's entirely up to you. This is your world. You can do whatever you want with it. Right. Oh, wow. I came over all Bob Ross there for a second. Okay, there we go. I just adjusted it just to illustrate what I was meaning. Again, we're running this off the output of a very small amount of smelters that aren't even running to capacity because we're not delivering enough ore to them. But this gives you an idea of the way I tend to like setting this sort of thing up. That looks terrible because I'm splitting it off a single bit, but it's fine. It'll get better. Right. Okay. So for our science, then let's pick a space. Down here should do, I think. And honestly, we don't actually need to worry too much about where we place the power, though. Perhaps every other one. Yeah, something like this will actually will work a little bit better. Actually, yeah, we could sink that in a little bit more too, and it would be able to reach all of the inserters. There we go. That's much, much smarter. So there we go. Right, this is where we want to deliver our science. And for the time being, we're only focusing on red right now. So we don't need to make a loop or anything like that. We can just let it all pile up. In fact, once we get green on here as well, exactly the same thing. We don't need to worry about it just yet. What we do need to do, though, is make sure that they all have inserters. So there we go. I find that working backwards through a system is sometimes a better way of making sure you've got enough space for everything and you don't get too cluttered and then too tempted to like try and squeeze things in. Though quite a lot of people say exactly the opposite, and more power to them, frankly. This is the way that I tend to work a little bit better. Right, so we're going to need to deliver iron gears and copper plate. So let's go ahead and get that sorted. It's fairly simple setup for that one. Over here, it's going to be all sorts of things that we're not yet looking to make. However, one of the things you'll notice, it takes 5 seconds to make, requires 1 copper plate, 1 iron gear. You can stop worrying about copper plate at that point. The ratio does not matter because ideally you should be delivering more than 1 copper plate every 5 seconds. The more fundamental the resource, the less you really have to worry about how fast it's made or anything like that. But the iron gears take 2 iron plate and produce 1 iron gear every 0.5 seconds. I tend to find it's easier to work with if you scale everything up until it's a second or a round second to work with. So we can produce 2 gears every second from a single factory. That means that at the very, very minimum, I would say use at least 2 factories making the red beakers. Right now, we don't need to worry about how many beakers we're making. We are not going to these are not going to be saturated by it. They'll be fine. Oh, rather, they will be saturated by it. We're not going to run out. They're not going to be running at lower capacity because we're not delivering beakers to them, no matter what we do at this stage. Later on, when you need lots and lots and lots of beakers, or on research that takes very little time, becomes a little bit more of a concern. So let's get these delivering there. Now we're going to want a belt that has both copper and gears on it, which is fine. Gears are made of metal, and we're really only going to need one factory making the gears. As we said, they're the things that, well, frankly, we need 2 of them to use the consumption to bring it into a round second. One gear place would be able to satisfy about 10 of these, more or less. So we don't need to worry about it right now. It's very far from anything that we need to be concerned with. And another 2 as well. Let's just bring this up here. Sorry if I am moving a little bit fast and not explaining myself as clearly as I normally would. If I do skip over something, which I've deemed in my infinite wisdom, which basically means my stupidity, that it isn't important for me to cover in any particular detail, and you want to call me on it, please do. If you don't understand anything I've said, the whys and wherefores, then please do let me know, and I will make a point to cover it in the very next episode that I actually record. There we are, because at the end of the day, I do want people to be able to view this as something of a tutorial, even though it isn't a tutorial. I want everything I do to make sense, and for someone to very easily see, that's why you did that. Otherwise, it's just confusing and annoying. Right, there we go, and we'll have this run through there. There we are. Right now, we're not trying to balance these belts in any particular way. As soon as that's done, clonk. Perfect. Clonk. There was a good game. Right. Actually, let me know in the comments if you have any idea what game I'm talking about when I say clonk. It's a bit of an oldie, that one. Well, it's been free for a bajillion years. That's actually how I found out about it. Right. We could... Well, you know what? That's actually a much better way of doing it. Let's do that. There we go. Perfect. And then we'll just build out across here all the way and hook up to some power there. There we are. That is marvelous. Right, so I want this to be producing gears. Ah ha ha ha. I made a bit of a mistake there, didn't I? Yes, I did. Let's pull that back a little bit then. That was a very, very silly mistake there. What I want is for this to... actually, I do... Well, we'll see. What I can do is if I place this there, it's going to force all of the output onto one side of the belt. And then, which is basically what I needed, but right now it's on the wrong side of the belt. Wow, what a silly mistake. Right, we can do that over on this side then. There we go. That should work. My bad, everyone. I'm sorry about that. There we are. That'll put the copper on the correct side there. There we go. And then finally, we can get everything where it needs to be. There we are. Then these two set up to be red flasks. There we go. Science. Science, everybody. Right. Okay. So we are going to want electronics. So let's get that up and running. Next up, I wouldn't mind adding in some... Right, we'll begin with... Shall I make these on site? That's always the question. I plan to make an area that will assemble transport belts and inserters. These are things I'm going to need in large quantities. But should I just make them because they're going to be a resource... a part of the recipe of this particular thing? Should I just make them on site? And honestly, I fancy I should. How quickly can I make these? Every 6 seconds. How quickly can I make transport belts? I can make them every 0.5, which is the speed that I can make a gear. So I can make a transport belt and completely use up the product of a gear factory every 0.5 seconds. That's marvelous. So 2 transport belts a second. Okay, that's fine. How about inserters, though? Inserters every 0.5 seconds. Now we're going to require electronic circuits there. That's all right. We can work up to that one, I feel. So let's go ahead and actually lay the groundwork. Maybe a little bit of a longer episode than normal, but if at the end of this episode, I have green science, I'm going to be happy with that, I think. So let's pop these down. It's a little bit tight down here, but it should be fine, I think. Actually, no, that won't be fine. I do need that one to be a little bit higher up. Simply because of the positioning there. That's a bit of a pain. I can just take this away, though. And that will fix that particular problem. There we go. And I'll just have that one all the way down here instead. There we go. Everyone is happy, or at least I am. There we are. And this can run down. Now, I do need to pay close attention, make sure that that isn't... They're not slowed down. Right now, it hasn't actually built up properly, but as you can see, I could have more there if I wanted to. If I don't see that kind of backlogging the red beakers before long, then I'll add an extra one. But there we go. Let's get the greens in place. Again, working backwards. So we're going to need at least 4 of those. Is that actually going to make it down? I think, because it likes to store 2. Yeah, we're actually going to need an extra one then. There we go. Now, you could spend time sciencing it and actually working out the formula and the ratio properly. And it's probably worth doing sometimes. But with something like that, you can just eyeball it, and it doesn't really make that much of a big impact on it. Green, yeah, we probably need to do the same to green, actually. Oh well, we'll move the science labs further down when that time comes. All right, there we go, and another 2, please. So we're going to want to get in. First, let's work on the transport belts. Actually, electronics is done. Marvelous. We now want to work up to automation 2, which we're going to need to be able to make the inserters. So begin work on that. It's going to take 80 beakers to make. Now, I'm going to want this to turn... Well, there's a couple of ways you can do this one, but realistically, I would like to have it turn horizontal so I can place things on either side of the belt. Either that, or this needs to be hooked up a little bit further back. So something a little bit further back like that. Right, so to make this, I just need an iron gear factory and an iron plate factory. And I realistically only want one of them. I don't need any more than that. So let's just make 2 of these and we should be good. In fact, let's grab that down. There we go. That'll be a little bit easier. And we want these to be placed on the belt on this side. Right, we'll draw that out once I'm ready for it. We can have this there and the other here. We'll have iron being delivered to both, but this one will deliver directly into the other. There we are. Perfect. And we will be able to power the entire group just with one power pole there, which will actually be perfect. Ah, wait, no, I can't. What I would like then is to pop that one in the middle and then I can. There we go. Problem solved. There we are. We don't need this one outputting onto the belt at all, so we can actually drag that back a little bit. All right, we want gears, and then we want conveyor belt. Now, one thing I could do at this point is to make that actually output into a chest before outputting onto the belt, because it's going to saturate the belt eventually, no matter what we do, I think, on this one. But there we go. We should see that happening. It'll make 2 belts, actually, I believe. Yeah, it makes 2 per. So we can quite comfortably have this being output into a chest. Just a little something down here. In fact, we could move this down a little bit and actually have a long-handled insert to help us out over here. So let me just redesign this very, very slightly. By slightly, I mean a lot. There we go. We want a long-reach inserter to help pop these down there. Then we want a box about there. There we go. That'll work much better, in my opinion. There we are. So this will be producing the actual belts there. Can I get this one across? I can, actually. Okay. A little bit surprised by that, but quite happy to accept it. Not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. There we go. Right, there we are. That'll start loading up down there. Okay, so now what we need are the inserters. Now, unfortunately, the inserter is going to require electronic circuits. So this one actually has to be made of a tier 2 assembler. The electronic circuits require only a tier 1, but we're going to need to make copper cable. So this part gets a little bit more complicated. The electronic circuits, we could just have those being made up there. Some people like to belt electronic circuits, and there's certainly, nothing to say that isn't a good way of doing it. But with things like this, I actually do like to produce them on site. We'll be making 4 every second, more or less, because the way we would set this up would be with 2 assemblers fed by 3 assemblers, giving them the copper cable, and 2 assemblers actually making the electronic circuits. Each one can make it every 0.5, so we only need 1. Yeah, okay, that's a little bit more than we need. We could just accept that we're not going to be using these to capacity, and that's actually completely fine. Completely fine. But there we are. We've got automation 2. Perfect. Let's start working on guns at this point then, on actual turrets, because we are going to start polluting this place quite a lot. Let's make a couple more of those. There we go. This actually won't be too bad, all things told. Let's get that in place, please. There we are. So this one should be outputting its inserters there. We'll need a gear. And we can actually set up very similar things so that we can actually have a chest to pick up any excess. And I would not mind that at all, actually. It'll be kind of a hodgepodge, but it'll be nice hodgepodge to begin with. We'll actually get a second long-handled inserter there. Right, we'll pop this one down here. Put that one over there, much the same way. There we go. This one to produce us gears. This one to produce the actual inserters themselves. We'll need iron plate delivered to it though, so we actually do need the iron to come all the way down on this one. There we are. That should all be fine. Get that one into position. Now on this, well, actually, problem is we're not going to be producing enough of these to split it in quite the same way. So I'll actually hold off on that one for now. We will be able to make use of that once we've got the circuit network set up. In fact, we could, well, we'll be able to research that reasonably soon. So let's get this running now. We're going to need 2 splitters because we're also going to want to bring along the copper. At this point, I would like to re-merge these lines so that they're nice and even. Let's bring that down. There we go. So we're actually going to need 2 splitters. There we are. Bump, bump. There we are. Perfect. And up here, we're going to need to bring down some copper to make the electronic circuits as well. That shouldn't be too much of an issue. In fact, I could add that on here, perhaps. We make the electronic circuits pretty quickly, after all. So I could have a long-handled inserter delivering this across. Let's see, that might work for a small setup like this, where we're not producing too much science because we intend to get a better placement later on. So for this, we are going to require some iron plate and copper cable. Not difficult at all. And we'll produce lots of copper cable. Yeah, I actually quite like the idea of having this merged down here. We'll draw it back though, just a little bit to make it a bit better and clear that side of the line. There we are. And let's make sure that that is only going to be put in on that side of the line. There we go. We just need an underground belt and a splitter and we should be good. Get all of these made. We've got optics finished. Let's go ahead and start researching walls. Splitter up here will be fine. And then that should be everything we need. We do need to power this though. Always forget something. There we go. Shouldn't forget power though. Worst thing you can forget. It's a bit ugly, but it'll do. There we go. That should all start feeding in. Now it does actually take quite a lot of copper cable. Oh, does it only take 1? No, it'll probably take... Let's have a quick look. It takes 3 copper cable. Well, we can improve that then by adding a 2nd. Because we're producing the copper cable more than fast enough. There we are. So, inserters are going to start feeding all the way down. Then being nabbed down here and fed in. Can we actually make filter inserters? We can make filter inserters. Well, given that then, we can actually solve the problem of storing these into crates a little bit more eloquently. Let's get those down here. There we are. We'll take this away for now. There we are. We'll just allow that to continue. And, well, next research I think should be military. We should actually set up an automatic production of guns fairly soon, I'm perfectly honest. Let's have these both going... Sure. We'll have it change around. I know I'm using a power pole where probably there is very little need, but let's do this. We can have 2 crates, one there, one there. This one should only pick up inserters, and this one should only pick up transport belts. They pick them up much faster than we're grabbing them over there, but that should be fine. There we go. We have now got green science automated as well. I'm actually quite pleased with that, I must be honest with you. Not really what I was aiming for with this episode, but not bad despite it. We can now go straight into logistics 2 and then railway soon after that. Oh, that's actually quite marvelous. I really wasn't expecting to have green science automated by the second episode, simply because I wasn't aiming for it. But the last thing we're going to do, and just because I'm getting a little paranoid now about impending death, we will actually split off a tiny bit of metal, just because it's so easy to do. I'll just pop this just down about here. And as soon as that is made, actually I've got loads of belts, so I can just run this down like so. We are going to build 2 factories just to make ammo for me, because we need it. Oh my lord, we're going to need it. And that's literally just for iron plates, so you can pop one there and get the second one a little bit further up. Something like that will do. And connect it up down here. Oops. Want it a little bit further apart, actually. There we go. There we are. And a chest. And then inserters. Offloading into that chest. I know I'm making them and I've got them over here. Oh, so bad of me. I'm too lazy to walk. Ah, too lazy to make them. Too lazy to go and collect them. Ah, I'm such a scallywag. But there we go. That should do us for quite some time now. There we are, and set up ammunition production. I will feel significantly better about that. There we go. Perfect. All right, we've done a reasonable amount in this episode. I feel we have updated our smelter area. In the next one, I'm going to have to increase the amount that we're mining, because we are really undermining. Actually, on that note, how are we doing for power? Ooh, we're maxed out on power. I should have noticed that. We're about anywhere from like 60% up to 75% maxed out on power. That is not good, even the slightest bit. So let's make sure that we actually get that resolved, shall we? There we go. There we are. That should do a lot for us. That should bring us back up. Yeah, we're no longer maxing it out. Right, brilliant. Okay, that's where we're going to end it for this episode. In the next, as I mentioned, we're going to be expanding our mining. But the big thing that I would like to do in the next episode is get the fabrication of all 3 types of basic belt being made. So the regular belt, the underground belt, and the splitter all being made. And other than that, perhaps it will be time for us to start properly exploring around and finding the next site for a town. We've got a load of stone over there. I think it's a bit premature to actually make a town specifically to mine stone, but you never know. We've only got a tiny bit down here, only 22k. That won't last us for very long, so who knows. But definitely we will be able to get up to trains in the next episode, and once we've got that, the automation of all of the parts of trains, anything to do with signals, the train tracks themselves, and ultimately the trains. And then finally, we will be in a position to actually found our new town. So maybe 1 or 2 episodes from now. Thank you very much for joining me, though. I really do hope you enjoyed. And as always, I welcome any feedback you might have down in the comments below. But until next time, and as always, take care, everyone.